so delighted to introduce our speaker today, who I always am uplifted by. And for those of you who don't know, she is a candidate to be the spiritual leader at Unity Chapel of Light in Santa Maria. So that's a distinct possibility. So we wish her well in that adventure. In the meantime, here's Rita.
First of all, thank you for rewriting that song from Les Mis. Could you write the rest of it over too? It is not a cheerful. And thank you for keep repeating that I'm a candidate, because people are already saying, are you still here? What is wrong with you? We can stop saying it now. Just let it go. Let it go, Luke. So good morning. It's nice to always see all of you here and on Zoom as well. As human beings, our job in life is to help people realize how rare and valuable each one of us really is. That each one of us has something that no one else has or ever will have. Something inside that is unique to all time. It's our job to encourage each other to discover that uniqueness and to provide ways of developing its expression. And those are the words of the late, great Fred Rogers, my favorite writer. In 1997, Fred Rogers won a Lifetime Achievement Emmy Award for his work as the beloved Mr. Rogers in Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And I've watched the moment he received that award on YouTube. And as he comes to the stage to accept the award, you can see the love for him in the audience. You can see that just the presence of this man warms an entire crowd. And you can see, as you watch all these stars that are in the audience, you can see the memories just flit across their face, and it takes them back to their own childhood. You can see that on their face. There's lots of smiles, lots of tears. But when he stood before them to accept the award, he did what Fred Rogers always could do so well. He turned the spotlight from himself onto the audience. And he asked them to do an activity with him that I'm going to ask you to do with me right now. He said, all of us have special ones who have loved us into being. Would you just take, along with me, 10 seconds to think of the people who have helped you become who you are, those who have cared about you and wanted what was best for you in your life. 10 seconds of time. I'll watch the time. And then he finished by saying, whomever you've been thinking about, how pleased they must be to know the difference you feel they've made. And now I've asked you to take just a few seconds to process that activity, to think about these questions. How did that moment feel for you? What did it feel like to remember those people? Did you feel their love all over again? And if they're gone from this world, did you see them smile once again at you with pride and belief in all that you are? What a gift it is to have received that love and to know that we're worth that love. That's what those that we remembered in those 10 seconds gave us. Love that grounds us and holds us. It's what we need in this very moment, this very day. And as thankful as we are for them, they are just as thankful for us, I'm sure. As Fred Rogers says, it's our job to love one another into being. But before we consider how to do that, let's just examine those two words, love and being. My sinuses are taking this moment to run. Thank you. I have my mother's sinuses. She loved that into being for me. So love, as defined in The Quest by Richard and Mary Alice Jaffola, they said love is an attitude which determines how we relate to the world. When you truly love one person, you can love everyone. Think about that. All you have to do is love one person, and then you're able to love everyone. You love the world, and most importantly, you know that you love yourself. Because loving others is impossible until we love ourselves. It's only when we release the love we've accepted for ourselves that we truly love someone and that we experience love. Being, as expressed in chapter 27 of the book one of A Course of Love. It was the first chapter I turned to when I picked up that book years ago. And it's entitled Being. And it says, being is as love is. You have attached being to being human. In your quest to identify yourself, you simply have narrowed yourself to the visible and describable. Your being is itself all purpose, all honor, all glory. There is no being apart from being. There's no being alive and being dead, being human or being divine. There's only being. Being is. And the only being who is not beyond the limits of total knowing is the self, the capital S self. Thus it is in knowing the self that all is known. So love into being means releasing the love we've accepted for ourselves in order to know the self and act from every moment from that self. How do we love another into being, particularly without shoulding on the ones that we love? As in, well, you should just go out and get a job because I believe in you. And more importantly, and more challenging, how do we do that for others that we might not even like, let alone love? The difficult people in our lives who we might think we have the right to should on. Spiritual author Stacy Roach writes, difficult people are everywhere. The coworker who's willing to do anything to get ahead, including taking credit for your ideas. The in-laws who always seem to be peering over your shoulder, critiquing your parenting skills and offering helpful advice. The child who knows exactly how to push your buttons to leave you exasperated and exhausted yet again. And then she goes on to say, Moses had this problem too. Moses was no stranger to dealing with difficult people. Even after rescuing them out of slavery and leaving them safely away from the Egyptians, the Israelites weren't all that happy with him. Instead of being grateful for their new freedom and provision from God, they were shedding tears over the menu, grumbling about not having water, wishing they had died in Egypt and could choose another leader. Even Moses' own siblings were jealous of his leadership and complained to God about their brother and his Cushite wife. And yet he went on to repeatedly intercede for them, to bring them and love them into being. Difficult people are the ones who would be easy to cut out of our lives and to walk away from. But consider that these people love us into being as well. Perhaps even more than the ones we thought about in those 10 seconds just a little bit ago. The people we think are difficult are the ones that provide us with the opportunity to exercise our own loving into being of ourselves and themselves. So what do we do to bring these difficult people into being, loving them into being? First, remember they are exactly the people we need to move intentionally toward, not away from. So find ways to engage them in conversation and meet them for coffee, send them a text, smile and say hello whenever you see them. Because next, it's important to learn their story. Our stories are what connect us and where we find our commonalities and our connections to being. Even our closest friends, we may not realize what experiences they've had that are still thorns in their hearts. So too, it is for those we've judged difficult. We really don't know what their thorns are until we listen to them. So be interested in them, listen and learn about them. You'll find ways to express your compassion at the appropriate times for them and discover your own similarities on which you can build relationship. Third, find specific ways to bless and encourage them. You could write them a note, buy them a book that's been an encouragement to you, or remark on something you appreciate about them. Yesterday, I was officiating a wedding in Paso Robles, where my car registered at 113 degrees when I got back into it. But at this wedding, it was out in the open field, out in the full sunshine. But you know, you get to talking with the disc jockey, the DJ, and the photographer, and the videographer, and I met a gentleman who was photographing the wedding, and he started talking about all the things in his life that were not good. You know, that believing that his life at least was in a recession, and all the things that were surrounding him. And as he was talking, I thought, well, okay, I know that we differ on some pretty different things on a human level. But on a divine level, I wish I had done more to encourage him about his own inner being in getting through this challenging time of life. And I'm still thinking about finding a specific way to bless and encourage him, and finding him again, or maybe writing him a note and saying, you know, there's more to this. You'll go through this. You'll make it through this. But those people pass through our lives, and that's the moment to love someone into being that we may not ever see again. As we are loving into being, we always have to intentionally choose oneness instead of separation. I told you that story before about a dear friend of mine who is at the political opposite of me, and how at one point in time, you know, a few years ago, I thought, I'm not ever going to speak to you again. We have got to sever this. Our blood pressures are going up. We're both going to have strokes the next time we talk to each other. And it came to that point. I had a decision point about, do I choose to sever it, or to say, we are more than this? And I did choose to say, let's try it another way, Rita. Let's choose to stay in here and focus on what's divine between the two of you. And she must have been thinking the same thing, because the next time we talked, we could talk about the things that we disagreed with without, you know, blood pressures going up or anything bothering us about it. It was okay. She was expressing herself and I was expressing mine, and we found our commonalities. And we are friends to this very day, and I'm very proud of that, very happy that that good friend didn't pass out of my life. Because finally, as we are loving into being, it's important to realize that while we may think they're the difficult ones, they may think we're the difficult ones. I was not going to look at anybody when I said that, but and I wasn't going to look out in case anybody was lasering about, well, thank you, you finally got that, Rita. You are the difficult one. But, you know, that gives us the opportunity to reflect on the difficult aspects you think you see in them, because they're in you. We all heard this before. If you're asking yourself, is that me? The answer is yes. So practice seeing each person that walks toward you with loving eyes, loving them into being even as they walk toward you. And you'll find that they're doing the same thing. They'll reflect back to you. Keep engaging with those you think are difficult, because they're probably engaging with you for the same reason. They think you're difficult. As we live in oneness, what you see in another is also what you see in yourself, and we know this. The epitome of love into being happened, was it just a week ago or was it 2? I feel like I'm living years in a week, but it's Gus Walls. And I talked about this Wednesday in the prayer group. The special needs teenager who stood so proudly looking up at his dad at the podium, giving a speech, pointing and shouting, "That's my dad." And Alec did that a little earlier when we were doing that exercise of the 10 seconds. He goes, "My dad. That's my dad." The tears streaming down his face And that image will forever be etched in my mind. And when I feel bad about something, I'm going to think of that. And I was kidding in the Wednesday group saying, you know, I want a bumper sticker that says, "That's my dad, go Gus." And once you knew it, after the meeting, I opened my email, and Amanda had sent me the New York Times op-ed on just that moment, written by Tina Brown, whose son is 38 and also special needs. She's a well-known reporter. I had already seen it because we have a group, Parents Helping Parents, and they had sent it. But I told her I had said in the group about my bumper stick idea, and I said, I want that bumper sticker. And then she emails back to me, she goes, "Oh, I've already ordered them. They come in a 4-pack. I'll bring one to you." I was like, wow, life is happening and I'm missing it. Turns out there is a movement called Love Like Gus. Has nothing to do with politics and everything to do with the real reason we exist. Wouldn't it be something if that was the ultimate outcome of this election? Love like Gus. I remind you again that as human beings, our job in life is to help people realize how rare and valuable each one of us really is. That each of us has something that no one else has or ever will have, something inside that is unique to all time. It's our job to encourage each other to discover that uniqueness and to provide ways of developing its expression. And as we consider the theme of devotion for this month, and I did read the newsletter this morning at 6 a.m. As we think of devotion, certainly this is one of our greatest devotions in life. As Charles Fillmore wrote in Talks on Truth, you are the abode of love. You are filled and thrilled with the mighty magnetic forces that love uses to do its mighty perfect work. You are powerful and activated to do only good, and you see only goodness and purity everywhere. So now, in closing, would you take just 10 seconds along with me to think of the people you currently think of as difficult in your life that you can love into being in this moment, helping them become who they are by sending caring thoughts of love to them right now. Thoughts about wanting what is best for them in life. 10 seconds of time. I'll watch the time. We have been loved into being because of friends, family, and the one power and presence in our life who just refuse to give up on us. And if we're committed to loving others into being, one day those folks in our world who we think are so difficult will be taking 10 seconds and will count us among those who have loved them into being. And as thankful as they'll be for us, we'll be just as thankful for them. And so it is.